Hello, and welcome to another Rouge unit of the week. And today we're taking a look at the BT-42. You might know Finland didn't exactly have a tank industry in the Second World War. A lot of the armoured vehicles were really either gifted to them from friendly nations or borrowed from not-so-friendly nations. And after the Winter War and then heading into the Continuation War, the Finns realised, hey, we need some assault gun platforms. Apparently a lot of other countries are using them. We need to have direct high explosive fire support to back up our infantry once we start attacking along the Karelian Isthmus. And so they needed a assault gun platform to fit this. They didn't exactly have a whole lot of choices, however. I mean, a lot of the tanks by this point in 41, 42 were either mainly T-26s, Vickers light tanks, and a couple T-28s they've managed to capture. However, they did manage to capture quite a few BT-7 tanks. They used them very briefly in the opening stages of the Continuation War, but pulled them pretty quickly out of frontline service, just due to mobility issues, and frankly are quite unreliable, and also used up a lot of fuel. Even though it's a light tank, Finland didn't exactly have a whole lot of tank fuel to be thrown about. So they thought, hey, well, we also have these 4.5-inch howitzers, which the British gave to us before they declared war in January of 1940. Why don't we just put them on the BT-7? The best we got. And that's what they did. They made their own design turret, which, well, kind of a turret only a mother could love. Strapped a gun in, put it on top of the tank, and you got the BT-42. They'd end up making 18 of these vehicles and attaching them to the Panzer Division as, well, assault guns, and they'd first see major combat service in June 1920 during the Battle of Viipuri, where they didn't really perform all that well. As you might imagine, a tank like this in a modern 1944 battlefield, where the Soviets have managed to, quite heftily upgrade their military with some pretty damn good tank designs, the BT-42 wasn't cutting it. It was a high-profile tank, which means it was very easy to spot, didn't have a whole lot of armor, and even when it was equipped with heat ammunition, it couldn't deal with majority of the Soviet armored vehicles. And during the battle, most of them would end up just being abandoned as they ran into some sort of technical or mobility issue. And so the few which did manage to make it back to the rear ended up being declared obsolete pretty shortly afterwards and were pulled completely off frontline service, which speaks volumes to just how effective the vehicle was. Today is one BT-42, which still survives, and it's, well, surprise, in a museum in Finland. In-game, the BT-42 is a 60-point assault gun available exclusively to the Panzer Division, the Finnish one that is. It is a single weapon, and that single weapon being the 4.5-inch howitzer, with 40 high-explosive shells, and 10, it says flames, but then incendiary ammunition. The damage is pretty respectable at 4.4 HE, good blast radius. Not exactly the most accurate thing, but it's a howitzer. You do have that important 2-kilometer range, and a respectable 6 rounds a minute fire rate. The incendiary ammunition is pretty similar. It does a little bit more high explosive damage. Also does have a napalm effect. However, it does have shorter range. Pop down to miscellaneous stats, has 30mm of front armor, strong top armor, 15mm at side, and 15mm at back. It goes 40 kilometers off-road, 53 kilometers on the road, medium stealth, and very low optics. So in battle, the BT-42 is the Stu-42 which you have at home. It's really the bare basics of what an assault gun is, and that is by having a gun on an assault platform. In this case, the BT tank chassis in-game is mediocre, especially considering your rather poor armor. You're somewhat mobile, but you're really just mobile to get to the front line, to get blown up quicker more than anything. This isn't really an assault gun tank you're going to be using for deep flanking maneuvers like you would with BT-7 spam on certain maps, as the lack of any sort of armor penetration means that you run into a single tank, you're going to have a very bad time. You really want to keep the BT-42s more on the direct front line. However, when the thing is not getting shot at, it's still a respectable vehicle. 114mm of high explosives is enough to make infantry and anti-tank guns think twice. But also more importantly is that incendiary flame ammunition, because that stuff well, it sticks pretty well. It's extremely good at dealing with static emplacements, such as anti-tank guns, because they can't shoot. Well, they can shoot if they're on fire, but they're not going to be alive for long, so they have to move, which gives you time to keep shooting at them. It's a very useful weapon, and you do get 10 shots of those incendiary ammunition to deal with pesky static targets which you want to evacuate the dance floor. And honestly, with how the Panzer Division is set up, SUI Panzer Division quote unquote, but you don't have a whole lot of armored vehicles to deal with, especially in your support tab. I'd say this is definitely a must take, as this is just some extra armor, and you don't have a whole lot of other choices as well in the support tab. You do have the ISU 152, the lone run available, which is a much better assault gun platform, but you're going to need something a little bit cheaper to spread across the line, and the BT-42 can fill in that role, especially considering that you do get a decent amount of infantry support tanks for Finland, but not so much in terms of range, and having a 2-kilometer howitzer is helpful. You also have decent availability. You only get 1 card of them, with 4 of them available. Overall, the BT-42 is just alright. It's not exactly the craziest vehicle. It may be a little bit pricey, but it's the incendiary ammunition is what makes it actually worthwhile, because it allows you to deal with those very annoying anti-tank guns, and you really need, well, anything with armor penetration value dead when playing Panzer Division. You don't exactly have a whole lot of heavily armored tanks. Your T-26 is going to appreciate having not even a single Pak-36 in the battlefield to stop their, well, rush towards the enemy spawn, because that's what you do with T-26s, right? And the BT-42 will be right there behind them, blowing up the more serious, soft, frishy targets. It's also a complete meme tank, and it's extremely fun to use in War Thunder, so I like it a lot personally. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. This has been another Ring Rouge Unit of the Week. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and usual, please just take it easy.